You know what's funny? Bully is one of the most misunderstood games Rockstar ever made. When it came out, parents and the news swore it was basically a school shooter simulator.
I'm looking at you, Jack.
But here's the truth. The worst thing you can do in this game is miss class. No guns, no murder, no rampages. Jimmy's deadliest weapon is literally a slingshot. Yeah, super realistic. Truly the Columbine experience. And the thing is, everyone was so focused on the controversy, they completely missed what the game was really saying. Because Bully isn't about violence at all. It's about power. About how schools, and really society, trap you in roles, pit you against each other, and even turn rebellion into just another way of keeping order. That's why your boy is gonna debunk this whole game piece by piece and explain how it might be Rockstar's most honest game. So, let's rewind to 2006. Rockstar drops Bully, and immediately the news loses its damn mind. I mean, this was peak moral panic era. You had Rockstar's and low-key video games main op, Jack Thompson, on the news every other week calling video games murder simulators. Headlines screaming, "Rockstar teaches kids to kill." And when Bully got announced, the narrative wrote itself. A Rockstar game set in a school? Of course the media thought it was going to be Columbine, the video game. They even had to change the game's title in PAL regions because of the name. And here's the wild part. Most of these critics hadn't even played. They were going off the title alone. Bully. That was enough. They imagined a game where you're just terrorizing classmates, pulling fire alarms, stabbing teachers in the hallway, basically GTA with lockers. But when the game finally dropped, people who actually played it were like, wait, this is it? You can't even kill anyone. Jimmy Hopkins' most dangerous weapon is a slingshot. And if you use it too much, you get busted. If you skip class, prefects drag you right back inside. And if you fight too much, detention. And what's detention? It's not even go sit in a corner for 30 minutes. Nah, Jimmy gets sentenced to mow the lawn or shovel snow. Congratulations, you've just unlocked Yard Work Simulator 2006. And that's the thing, the adults screaming about Bully were fighting a ghost. They never touched the game, never saw what it was about, but projected their own fears onto it. Which is kind of hilarious, because that's literally what the game itself is about. Authority figures making rules, enforcing discipline, and missing the bigger picture. And honestly, Rockstar must have been laughing behind the scenes, dog, because they've always thrived in controversy. GTA gets called a murder simulator, sales skyrocket. Manhunt gets labeled a snuff film game, parents panic and kids go buy it in secret. But with Bully, it's almost like Rockstar set a trap. They gave it the most provocative title possible, sat back and watched the media write their own satire. Because when you strip away all the panic, what you're left with isn't a violent game. It's a game about the culture of violence, hierarchy, and control inside a school. So while the news was busy warning parents about a dangerous game corrupting kids, the actual message of Bully was staring them in the face. Adults project their fears onto kids. Institutions punish the wrong behaviors, and the people in charge are usually the real problem. Now that we've seen how the media blew Bully out of proportion, let's zoom in on the school itself, Bullworth Academy, and how it mirrors society in miniature. Bullworth Academy isn't just a school, it's a blueprint of society. Rockstar basically shrunk the real world down into a campus and lets you see how it works when the masks come off. You've got the cliques, and every single one of them is a caricature of a real social class. The preppies, That's your old money elite. Kids who never worked a day in their life, walking around in their little yacht club uniforms, talking like they swallowed a fucking teapot. Their whole identity is inherited wealth and status. They don't earn respect, they just own it by default. And of course, they treat everyone else like shit. Then you've got the jocks, the athletes, the golden boys, the guys whose entire power comes from physical dominance. They're basically the sports industrial complex in Letterman jackets. As long as they can tackle hard and throw far, they run the social pyramid. Don't matter if they dumb as fuck, Bullworth rewards strength over substance. Meanwhile, the nerds think they smart enough to run the school, but in reality, they've got zero power. They hide in the library, building bottle rocket launchers, quoting Dungeons and Dragons rules like scripture. They've got brains, sure, but brains don't mean much when nobody respects you. They're the bureaucrats, the tech guys, the people who think they're running the show, but actually just live at the mercy of everyone else. The greasers are stuck in the past. Leather jackets, slick hair, revving bikes like it's 1955. They're the working class kids clinging to a culture that doesn't hold weight anymore. They want respect, they want recognition, but the world's already moved past them. They're like a union that lost all its bargaining power. And then there's the townies, the dropouts, the outsiders. These kids aren't even part of the school anymore. They've been chewed up and spit out by the system. Society don't want them, so they band together in resentment. And that's the darkest part. Bullworth doesn't rehabilitate kids who struggle. It just exiles them. Put it all together, and Bullworth isn't just a school. It's a satire of how we're divided up in real life. The elites versus the workers, the strong versus the smart, the insiders versus the outsiders. And the genius of Bully is that Jimmy gets thrown into the middle of all this chaos, forced to navigate the cliques, make alliances, and eventually unite them. But here's the catch. Even when Jimmy unites the cliques, he doesn't overthrow the system. He just becomes the guy running it. And that's the quiet little knife twist from Rockstar. Rebellion doesn't destroy hierarchies. It just rearranges them. So when you're playing bully, you're not just punching out nerds or dodging classes. You're watching a whole society in miniature. A society designed to keep people in boxes, fighting each other instead of questioning the people at the top. So, let's talk about Jimmy Hopkins. On paper, he's just another Rockstar protagonist, a rough kid with a smart mouth and a bad reputation. But compared to GTA characters, Jimmy's kind of normal. He's not a murderer, he's not building a drug empire, he's just a 15-year-old kid trying to survive in a school that wants him to fail. And that's what makes him interesting. Jimmy isn't trying to burn the system down, he just wants fairness. He hates bullies, he hates hypocrites, and he's constantly standing up for the people who get screwed over. Early in the game, you see it. He defends weaker kids. He pushes back against teachers who abuse their power, and he's not afraid to punch the so-called untouchables in the face. But here's the twist. The more Jimmy fights the system, the more he becomes part of it. Every time he defeats a clique, he doesn't dismantle their power, he absorbs it. Beat the preppies, now you're the one with their respect. Take down the jocks, suddenly you're the alpha on campus. Unite all the cliques, and congratulations, you're basically the unofficial king of Bullworth Academy. And that's the hidden tragedy of Bully. Jimmy's rebellion doesn't change a damn thing. It doesn't change the structure, it just rebrands it. He ends up stabilizing the same hierarchy he claimed to fight against. He goes from being the kid on the outside, trying to make things fair, to being the guy at the top, maintaining order. It's that classic Rockstar cynicism. GTA says, the world's corrupt, go wild. The bully says, the world's corrupt, and even when you fight it, you'll probably end up part of it. That's a way harsher message, especially when you realize it's aimed at kids who are literally playing this while still in school. Jimmy Hopkins is the perfect example of how rebellion gets commodified. The system doesn't always crush rebels, it just absorbs them, turns them into prefects, leaders, bosses, and that's exactly what happens here. By the end of the game, Jimmy isn't the underdog anymore. He's the system's final boss. And the crazy part, the game doesn't even frame that as a bad thing. Jimmy gets his happy ending. The cliques stop fighting, peace returns to Bullworth, but it's peace built on the same structure that caused the conflict in the first place. Rockstar basically hands you the crown and says, congrats, you didn't change the game, you just learned how to play it better. But while Jimmy navigates the cliques, there's a bigger problem looming. The real bullies aren't always the students. They're the adults running the place. There's the plot twist nobody really talks about. The real bullies at Bullworth aren't the kids. It's the adults. Rockstar goes out of its way to make the staff feel like cartoon villains. You've got Mr. Hattrick, who's less of a math teacher and more of a sleazy accountant, pocketing bribes and screaming at kids about money. Then there's Dr. Crabblesnitch, the headmaster. This dude talks about morality and shaping young minds, but he's really just worried about how the school looks from the outside. Low-key, if Bullworth was burning down, his first thought would be, oh god, what will the donors think? And let's not forget Miss Danvers, his secretary, who basically treats him like he's the second coming of Christ. She doesn't give a single fuck to what's happening to the students. She just glazes authority for the sake of it. And the rest of the staff, you've got teachers who are either creepy, incompetent, or just flat out abusive. These are the people running the place. If it was me, I would have been out of there before class would even start. No wonder the kids are messed up. But Rockstar doesn't just stop at painting them as bad people. It just shows how authority itself is a weapon. The detention system is the perfect example. You get caught breaking the rules, and your punishment isn't detention in the classic sense. No, you're mowing lawns, you're shoveling snow, you're literally doing free labor for the school. It's not about helping kids learn from their mistakes. It's about humiliating them and reminding them who's in charge. That's not discipline, that's exploitation, bro. And here's where it gets real. The staff never actually addresses the real problems. The constant bullying, the cliques waging war in the hallways, the corruption and chaos. They don't care. What they care about is order. Don't matter if that order is toxic, don't matter if the students are miserable, as long as nobody threatens the system, they're fine with it. And the second Jimmy tries to actually fix things, the adults frame him as the problem. That's the genius of Rockstar's satire. Just like how GTA mocks politicians and cops, Bully takes aim at the education system. The message is clear. The real bully isn't the jock shoving you into a locker. It's the adults who created an environment where that's normal. Bullworth isn't a school, it's a machine. An authority isn't there to guide you. It's there to crush you into shape. Deadass. The teachers at Bullworth are so bad, I'm surprised Rockstar didn't drop a DLC called Predatory Microtransactions 101. Pay $5 to not get detention today. And here's the kicker. Even as Jimmy fights authority and cliques alike, the game's ending has a twist that flips everything we thought we knew about rebellion. You spend the whole game tearing down cliques, exposing corrupt teachers, and trying to quote-unquote fix Bullworth. Jimmy's supposed to be the rebel, the kid who doesn't belong to anyone, who doesn't buy into the system, but the ending flips it on its head. Because when the dust settles, Jimmy doesn't destroy the system, he replaces it. Think about it. By the end of the game, Jimmy is basically crowned the king of Bullworth. The cliques fall in line under him, the teachers grudgingly respect him, and even the headmaster can't really ignore him anymore. On the surface, that feels like a victory. You've climbed the social ladder, you're finally on top. But here's the catch. The ladder is still there. The system hasn't changed. Jimmy just became another cog in it. It's Rockstar's way of saying that rebellion doesn't always topple authority. Sometimes it just gets absorbed into it. Instead of breaking the cycle, Jimmy becomes part of it. He's still enforcing rules, still holding power over other students. It's just that now you're the one in charge. That's what makes this game so sharp as satire. Bully isn't just about fighting against authority. It's about how easy it is for rebellion to basically be rendered useless. Schools, governments, corporations, it's all the same. They know how to turn rebels into rulers. And in the process, the cycle keeps spinning. And the funniest part, Rockstar doesn't treat this like some grand tragedy. They wrap it up in a school comedy. Jimmy kisses his girl, the music swells, the credits roll. Happy ending, right? But if you stop and think for a second, you'll realize it's kind of bleak. Jimmy didn't burn the system down, he just became its newest face. In other words, the real final boss of Bully isn't Gary Smith. But we'll get to that. It's the realization that even rebellion can get domesticated. Even the misfit ends up wearing the crown. And once you're on the throne, how different are you from the people you just overthrew? Of course, no story about rebellion is complete without a cautionary tale. And that's where Gary Smith comes in. The dark reflection of Jimmy at his worst. If Jimmy is the kid trying to survive and maybe even do the right thing, then Gary Smith is everything Jimmy could become if he stopped caring about morals. Gary isn't just a bully. He's a manipulator, a narcissist, a puppet master who thrives on chaos for the sake of chaos. He would low-key make a great GTA protagonist if you think about it. From the moment you meet him, you realize he doesn't want to unite the school. He doesn't want fairness. He doesn't even want power for stability. He wants power because he likes watching the world burn. This dude is always plotting, always scheming, and he knows exactly how to push every student's buttons. What makes Gary so interesting is that he's the dark reflection of Jimmy. Jimmy wants order, even if it's his order. Gary wants anarchy. Jimmy uses his influence to stop fights, build alliances, and eventually stabilize the system. Gary? He uses influence to start fights, sabotage cliques, and make the school as unstable as possible. Rockstar is smart about it. Gary isn't just an enemy you punch in the face and move on. He's a lesson. He's showing what happens when rebellion loses its purpose. When it's not about fairness or justice, but just about ego and chaos. If Jimmy had taken Gary's path, Bullworth would have collapsed into absolute chaos, and nobody would have been better off. Even the game hints at this subtly. While Jimmy is remembered as the king of Bullworth, Gary's legacy is manipulation and fear. He leaves a trail of ruined relationships and paranoia behind him. It's a warning. Rebellion without a moral compass doesn't liberate, it destroys. And honestly, their humor isn't how over the top Rockstar makes them. From the creepy smile to the overly dramatic schemes, you can't help but laugh while also feeling that chill down your spine. It's like they saying, this is the ultimate misfit. But misfits can be dangerous if they have no direction. So in a way, Gary Smith elevates the entire story. He shows the stakes. He's the mirror Jimmy has to measure himself against. And he's the reason the satire lands so hard. Bully isn't just about school politics. It's about understanding the difference between constructive rebellion and pure chaos. But to really understand why a character like Gary exists and why Bullworth works so well as a satire, we have to zoom out and look at Rockstar in the 2000s, the era that shaped this game. This was the studio at peak controversy. GTA San Andreas had just dropped, and the hot coffee scandal had parents losing their minds. Manhunt was being labeled a snuff film simulator. Every time Rockstar released a game, the media had a new villain ready to blame. And then comes Bully, a game set in a school. Naturally, the world flipped. Headlines screamed about how it was teaching kids to be violent, corrupting youth, and normalizing bullying. Politicians and moral guardians were ready to storm the gates. Yet, if you actually played the game, it was not that. You were dealing with detention, pranks, and learning how to survive a bureaucracy of teenagers and adults alike. This fits perfectly into Rockstar's pattern at the time. Take a system, exaggerate it, and expose its hypocrisies. In GTA, it's corrupt cops, politicians, gangs, and the American dream turned upside down. Bully, it's the education system itself. Cliques, the staff, the hierarchies, the way authority feeds on conformity. Context is smaller, more intimate, the satire is just as sharp. The controversy, Rockstar likely saw it coming. They knew Bully would trigger outrage. That's part of the appeal. Just like with GTA, here only amplified interest. Parents yelling about a school shooter simulator, kids went out and bought it to see what the fuss was about. Rockstar was holding up a mirror to society. Everyone was too busy being offended to notice. Plus, in the mid 2000s, gaming itself was changing. Games were becoming more narrative driven, more willing to tackle social commentary, and Bully was a prime example. Rockstar wasn't just making a sandbox game with a schoolyard setting. They were testing how far satire could go in a medium still mostly associated with fun and violence. So when you play Bully today, it's not just a quirky school adventure. It's part of Rockstar's legacy of critique, controversy, and social observation. The game where every prank, every detention, and every clique battle is a tiny reflection of how power works, both in school and in the world at large. Fast forward to today, and it's clear that Bully's lessons haven't aged a bit. Its satire, humor, and insights are still incredibly relevant. Maybe more so than ever. Even though Bully is nearly 20 years old, its themes hit harder than ever. At first glance, it's a schoolyard adventure. Fighting bullies, playing pranks, surviving detention. But peel back the layers, and it's a game about systems, hierarchy, and human behavior that hasn't changed. Think about schools today. Cliques still exist. Peer pressure still rules the social landscape. Authority still cares more about appearances than actual problems. And the internet? It's basically a digital Bullworth. Social media amplifies bullying, reinforces cliques, and rewards the loudest, meanest, or most manipulative. Jimmy's struggles feel surprisingly modern. Then, there's the lesson about rebellion. Jimmy spends the whole game pushing back against the system. But by the end, he becomes part of it. That's a warning that still resonates. Rebellion doesn't automatically fix the world. You can't just smash hierarchies and expect justice to emerge. The game teaches that you need purpose and direction, or else chaos, like Gary Smith, takes over. That's why Bully still matters today. It's fun, it's funny, it's chaotic, but it's also a smart game. It invites players to reflect on power, fairness, and responsibility in a way few games dare to. You don't just play it, you study it, laugh at it, and and maybe even see your own school or society in it. Rockstar managed something rare here, a game that's both entertaining and thoughtful, controversial yet insightful. The fact that it still resonates nearly 2 decades later isn't just nostalgia, it's proof that its critique of society, authority, and rebellion was never really tied to 2006. These lessons are timeless. And honestly, the humor is what keeps it alive. The exaggerated characters, the ridiculous punishments, over the top schemes. Without that, the message might feel heavy handed. But by wrapping it in comedy, Rockstar ensures players engage with the ideas while laughing at the absurdity of it all. So when we look back at Bully today, it's more than just a classic. It's a masterclass in satire, a mirror for human behavior, and a reminder that even the most chaotic schoolyards are lessons in society itself. So, when we take a step back from the pranks, the detention minigames, and the chaos, we see what Rockstar really did. They made a game that's as much about society as it is about surviving high school. And that's why Bully still matters. So what's the final takeaway from Bully? On the surface, it's a game about a kid surviving high school chaos. But when you really dig in, it's about systems, hierarchies, and the way power shapes behavior, both among kids and the adults supposedly guiding them. Jimmy Hopkins might start as the rebel outsider, but by the end, he becomes part of the very system he was fighting. Kinda reminds me of another game. I ain't gonna say too much about it. Gary Smith shows what happens when rebellion goes unchecked. The cliques, the staff, the petty rules, they're all mirrors of society, exaggerated and compressed into a schoolyard for us to see clearly. And Rockstar's genius, they do all of this while keeping the game fun, absurd, and endlessly replayable. You laugh, you prank, you fight, and somewhere in between, you learn a little about human nature and how institutions maintain themselves. Even nearly 20 years later, Bully still matters. Its lessons about authority, rebellion, and social dynamics are timeless. It's a reminder that games can be more than just entertainment. They can be mirrors, critiques, and sometimes surprisingly insightful classrooms. So next time you boot up Bullworth Academy, remember, you're not just playing a game, you're exploring a society in miniature, full of lessons hidden beneath the chaos, the laughs, and the slingshots. And honestly, that's kind of brilliant. Thanks for watching, everyone. Also wanted to say real quick, thank you all so much for 500 subscribers. I love y'all, and yeah, we're gonna keep discovering some more cool games, and I'm gonna see y'all in the next one. Peace.